There is a certain stillness that cannot be taught, a silence that does not beg to be noticed, a presence that does not reach outward for validation. It simply is. When you look closely at a man's face in moments of quiet, you begin to understand this truth. The face is not decoration. It is a canvas of the soul. Every line holds memory. Every pause carries intention. And when that face remains calm, unreactive, and unreadable, something subtle happens in the room. People grow uneasy, not because they sense danger, but because they sense depth they cannot access. True power has never announced itself. It does not rush to speak. It does not explain itself away. It does not perform for applause. The men who shaped history from the shadows were never the loudest voices in the room. They did not posture. They did not dominate with noise or theatrics. They dominated with presence alone. There is something profoundly unsettling about a man who does not scramble for approval, who does not fill silence with nervous explanations, who does not flinch when challenged yet carries no hostility in his eyes. People often label this confidence, but confidence is a shallow word for something far older and far rarer. What you are witnessing is control. Not control over others, but mastery over the inner world. Thoughts held in check, emotions disciplined, reactions chosen rather than leaked. This is the man who moves like a ghost through the room. He arrives quietly. He leaves without ceremony. And yet his absence lingers longer than most men's presence ever does. Conversations shift when he speaks less. Eyes follow him even when he says nothing. Assumptions are projected onto him without evidence because the mind cannot tolerate what it cannot read. And here is the truth most people never realize. If others seem uneasy around you, if your calm changes the temperature of a room, if your restraint feels heavier than aggression, it may not be because you are intimidating by force. It may be because your aura exposes what they have not yet mastered within themselves. This is not dominance. This is not ego. This is sophisticated influence, the quiet gravity of a man who has done the inner work, who no longer needs to prove, persuade, or posture. So if you have ever wondered why people read into your silence, why your stillness feels loud to others, why your presence speaks before your words ever do, this is why. Let's break them down. Number one, silence as psychological gravity. Silence is misunderstood because most people experience it as absence, a void that must be filled to feel safe. But in refined men, silence is not empty. It is dense. It carries intention. It carries awareness. It is a form of presence that does not need sound to announce itself. When you speak less, you are not withholding value. You are allowing the environment to expose itself naturally. You are giving reality room to unfold without interference. This is why your silence feels heavy to others. It creates a psychological vacuum where their insecurities surface uninvited, where their need for validation, approval, or control begins to echo louder than your words ever could. Modern neuroscience explains this as projection under ambiguity. When the brain lacks clear external signals, it rushes to fill the gap with its own unresolved material. Your silence becomes the canvas upon which others unconsciously paint their assumptions, fears, and desires. This is not manipulation. This is composure. Composure is misunderstood as passivity, but it is active restraint. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He wrote not to be admired, not to perform wisdom, but to remain internally ordered. He understood that restraint preserves energy, and energy is the true currency of influence. When you remain quiet under pressure, people unconsciously assign depth to you. not because you demand respect, but because restraint signals mastery. Weak men speak to assert existence. They rush to explain, to justify, to be seen. Strong men exist without announcement. Your calm does not rush to fill space. It allows moments to breathe. And when moments breathe, time slows. That slowing is what unsettles people. They feel it immediately, even if they cannot name it. They feel observed, not watched. There is a difference. Observation carries no hunger, no need to extract or dominate. Watching seeks outcome, leverage, advantage. Your silence has no agenda. That is why it feels powerful. You are not trying to win the room. You are not competing for attention. You are allowing the room to reveal itself. This is why conversations change around you. People begin to hear themselves more clearly. They weigh their words more carefully. Silence sharpens awareness. It strips away noise and leaves only what is real. That is the first sign of an intimidating presence, not aggression, not volume, but the quiet authority of a man who is fully anchored within himself. Number 2, emotional containment under pressure. Most men reveal themselves not through what they say, but through what escapes them. Leakage, micro-expressions flicker across the face. Breathing tightens, shoulders rise. The body confesses what the mouth tries to conceal. When pressure enters the room, their inner disorder looks for an exit. You do not leak. Your face remains composed. Your breathing remains slow. Your posture does not negotiate with tension. This is not emotional suppression. Suppression is forceful. It clenches, it cracks over time and erupts when least expected. What you demonstrate is emotional containment. Psychological containment is the capacity to experience internal stress without exporting it into the environment. You feel the pressure, but you do not outsource it. This is the quality that made certain historical leaders feel immovable, not because they were fearless, but because fear never became the commander. Fear visited, observed, and left without issuing orders. When others look at you during moments of tension and find no readable reaction, something subtle begins to happen inside them. Their nervous system escalates, uncertainty activates the amygdala. The mind begins scanning for threat, for hierarchy, for meaning. People are conditioned to read reactions to establish control or predict outcomes. Yet you offer none. No spike, no collapse, no emotional giveaway. You sit calmly inside the moment, fully present, fully regulated. This calm becomes your shadow, not something sinister, but something ungraspable. Depth often feels threatening to those who survive on surfaces. Stillness unsettles people who rely on noise to orient themselves. Cinematic figures like Shelby are often misunderstood because viewers fixate on action, violence, or authority. But the true intimidation occurs before movement, the stillness before the decision, the pause that refuses urgency, the delay that signals choice rather than compulsion. Restraint is the real power. You embody this without performance. When challenged, you do not rush to defend your identity. You do not scramble to correct perception. You allow time to pass. You allow silence to stretch. This communicates something deeper than dominance. It signals inner stability. And stability does something chaos cannot tolerate. It exposes it, not through aggression, not through force, but through contrast. Stability intimidates chaos not intentionally, but inevitably. Number 3, non-competitive presence. You do not compete for attention because you are not seeking confirmation of worth. Competition is the language of inner scarcity, a quiet admission that value must be proven instead of embodied. When a man interrupts, escalates, dominates conversations, or forces humor, he is reaching outward, trying to anchor his identity to reaction. He needs resistance so he can feel weight. He needs noise so he can feel present. You do the opposite. You allow attention to come or go without attachment. You're not offended by silence nor intoxicated by applause. And paradoxically, this absence of grasping makes you more noticeable. Human attention is instinctively drawn to what does not beg for it. In psychology, this is known as attentional contrast. When one presence remains calm while others fluctuate, posture rises and falls, voices sharpen and soften, and the calm becomes the reference point. Without effort, you become the center, not by force, but by consistency. This is sophisticated influence. You do not raise energy to be felt. You lower it, the room adjusts around you, conversations slow, movements recalibrate. People become aware of themselves without knowing why. This is how leadership feels before it is named. It does not announce itself. It settles. You are not trying to be impressive. You are aligned. Alignment creates gravity. Your words are measured because you do not speak to fill space. You speak to place meaning. When you do speak, people lean in, not because you are louder, but because you are precise. Precision communicates intelligence without display. It signals that you are choosing your words, not chasing impact. This restraint makes your presence feel like a masterpiece, minimal, intentional, finished. Nothing excessive, nothing is missing. People sense that nothing about you is accidental. Your pauses are deliberate. Your expressions are controlled. Even your stillness carries structure. This creates intimidation without aggression, authority without dominance. Others may perform, posture, or compete, but you remain unmoved. And in that stillness, comparison collapses. You are not reacting to the room. The room is reacting to you. This is the quiet power most people never understand because it cannot be copied through behavior alone. It is the result of internal completeness. When nothing inside you is seeking validation, everything around you begins to orbit naturally. Number 4, comfort with misinterpretation. One of the most destabilizing traits you possess is your comfort with being misunderstood. Most men feel an almost compulsive need to clarify, to correct, and to explain themselves the moment they sense misinterpretation. Their identity is fragile, tethered tightly to how they are perceived. You have severed that tether. You allow others to construct their own narratives about you, not because you are careless, but because you are grounded. This is not emotional detachment or indifference. It is self-trust in its mature form. Psychology describes this orientation as an internal locus of evaluation. Your sense of worth, direction, and correctness comes from within, not from applause, agreement, or validation. You're guided by internal standards, not external noise, and that independence quietly destabilizes people around you. It removes their leverage. When misunderstanding no longer provokes you, manipulation loses its power. Provocation fails. Gossip falls flat. You do not rush to defend a version of yourself that was never dependent on public consensus. Instead, you let time and behavior speak. Consistency replaces explanation. Pattern replaces performance. This patience signals long-term thinking. It suggests a man who understands trajectory, who knows that truth revealed through time is stronger than truth argued in moments. You move as someone who knows where he is going and does not require permission or approval along the way. To observers, this often registers as aloofness or arrogance. It is neither. It is integration. You have confronted and reconciled your shadow, the part of you that does not need to be liked. the part that is willing to stand alone without collapsing. When that reconciliation occurs, your behavior stabilizes. You stop shape-shifting to fit rooms. You stop managing impressions. You stop performing identity for acceptance. Instead, you embody it, and embodiment is deeply unsettling to those still negotiating who they are because it cannot be debated, corrected, or controlled. An embodied man does not argue his value, he lives it. He does not demand to be understood. He allows misunderstanding to exhaust itself. And in that silence, something unmistakable emerges. Quiet authority. Number 5, nervous system regulation. Your presence changes the tempo of environments. And this is not mystical language or spiritual exaggeration. It is biological, neurological, and observable. Human nervous systems are not isolated units. They constantly read, adjust, and synchronize with the nervous systems around them. When you enter a space regulated, breathing evenly, shoulders relaxed, spine upright, gaze steady, you introduce a different rhythm into the room. Others feel it before they understand it. Conversations slow without instruction. Voices drop in volume. Movements become more intentional, less erratic. This is co-regulation. You are not calming people by force or performance. You are offering your internal state as a reference point, and their bodies respond automatically. Most men unconsciously mirror the emotional climate of their surroundings. Noise creates more noise. Tension multiplies itself. You do something different. You absorb chaos without letting it pass through your identity. You remain present without becoming reactive. This signals emotional resilience at a level words cannot imitate. People trust what stays steady under pressure. They trust what does not rush to fill silence or escape discomfort. That is why others feel both drawn to you and unsettled by you at the same time. Your calm becomes a mirror they did not ask for. In your presence, their restlessness becomes visible to them. Time feels different around you. Silence stretches longer than expected. Moments stop racing. That slowing effect exposes how dependent many people are on stimulation, distraction, and emotional noise. When those props disappear, discomfort surfaces. You are not intimidating because you dominate energy or command attention. You are intimidating because you neutralize excess energy. You remove the friction people use to define themselves. Chaos loses its influence around you, and for those who rely on chaos to feel alive, validated, or powerful, that loss feels threatening. They cannot escalate you. They cannot rush you. They cannot pull you into their tempo. And when someone cannot control the pace of an interaction, they often mistake that loss of control for fear. You do not need to explain yourself, assert yourself, or perform authority. Your nervous system speaks first. Your stillness sets the rules. The environment adapts to you, not because you demand it, but because regulation naturally leads and dysregulation follows. This is quiet power. It is not learned through domination, but through mastery of the self. Number 6, clean detachment and exit power. The final sign is not how you enter spaces, but how you leave them, because departure reveals far more about power than arrival ever could. You disengage without bitterness, without announcements, without speeches designed to be remembered. There are no explanations meant to persuade, no lingering emotional hooks left behind to secure relevance. This restraint is rare. Most men attach identity to continuation. They believe value comes from being needed, noticed, or fought over. When something ends, they chase closure through control, arguments, or forced understanding. You do not. You understand something most never learn. Alignment cannot be negotiated. When respect fades, when values misalign, when energy becomes distorted, you do not debate it into submission. You withdraw your energy cleanly. This is not avoidance. This is discernment. It signals a deep level of self-respect because it tells others that access to you is conditional on mutual respect, not persistence, pressure, or emotional leverage. You do not punish. You do not seek revenge. And you do not attempt to teach lessons. You simply remove presence. Psychologically, this creates what is known as exit power, the ability to leave without destabilizing yourself. Exit power is deeply intimidating because it cannot be leveraged, negotiated, or emotionally manipulated. People sense finality without hostility, and that unsettles them far more than anger ever could. There is nothing to push against, nothing to argue with, nothing to fix. You become a ghost, not through dramatic disappearance, but through autonomy. Your absence is not reactive. It is complete. You are no longer bound by validation, reaction, or the need to be understood. This level of composure communicates something primal. Your center is internal. You do not fracture when chapters close. You do not leak energy through resentment or nostalgia. You move forward intact, self-contained, and undisturbed. That integrity leaves an impression longer than confrontation ever could, because confrontation fades, but quiet self-possession lingers. Long after the interaction ends, people remember how you left, calm, resolved, unbroken, and they realize too late that they were not dealing with someone who needed to win, but someone who already had nothing to lose. Intimidation is misunderstood because it is often confused with threat. What you embody is not a threat. It is coherence. Your inner world is ordered. Your emotions are integrated. Your identity is stable. When these elements align, presence gains mass. People feel it instinctively. Your aura is not loud. It is dense. Your shadow is not feared. It is mastered. Your life is not performative. It is intentional. This is Sigma energy refined, not as isolation but as self-governance. You do not seek dominance. You demonstrate sovereignty, and sovereignty requires no announcement.